So first of all, my apologies if there's any sort of audio issues. I forgot my microphone today, so I'm just using the microphone that's actually right on the camera, and I just gotta not cover it up like that. So my apologies on the audio, but the content should be good, so I hope you guys stick around. Second thing, if you do find this video valuable, you learned something from it or whatever, if you would, give me a subscribe and possibly a thumbs up too. Just because I'm trying to get to 1,000 followers, 1,000 subscribers, then I can make a little bit of money, whatever. If you guys find it valuable, please appreciate it. And today we're going over winter scouting. I'll be making a bunch of videos like this over the next couple months because I spend a lot of time in the outdoors right now because all the sign is clearly visible. We got this property in August that I'm able to hunt, and I don't know it that well. I had a few good encounters, just, you know, flying by the seat of my pants in season, but now is the time to really learn. And I don't know how the deer use this property, what trails they use, how they use them. You know, there's a lot of good bedding areas that I'm not sure if they are bedding areas, if they're not. So today I'm just gonna be wandering the property, looking at things and dropping some tips and some helpful hints. So right now, the big one that I'm working on is this spot where I'm standing right now is where I almost shot Groot, which is about 150 to 160 inch non-typical buck. Here's a picture of him. And I was about 30 yards from here and I couldn't get a shot at him, but I saw him stand up out of his bed. He used this trail and I never went into this bedding area. So now I can. So I am following the trail. I got on this big old deer trail right here. I don't know how well you can see that, but big deer trail comes through here, keeps going down through here, and then he's bedding somewhere back in this area right below this big cliff. So I am going to just backtrack this trail. And that's one of the big things about winter scouting. I don't care if I bump any deer out of there. My dog, who's running around, probably already has anyway. So I'm gonna go check all that out and we'll see how it looks, and I'll give you an update if I find anything, whatever. But we'll just kind of keep moving along on this property. There's a big knob that I'm looking at, some bedding areas, and my backpack is full of trail cameras. I got 8 trail cameras to drop, so I'm gonna drop those today too. And generally, in the winter, for trail cameras at least, I'm just looking for big trail merges. So where a bunch of trails kind of come together and merge, that's where I'm gonna drop trail cameras. Food sources are good, but a lot of times in the winter right now, you're like, I have a boatload of turkeys. Like last time I was out here, I counted 37 turkeys, and my cameras just fill up with turkey pictures if I put them on a food source. So I'm not gonna do that. I'll kind of put them off in the woods a little bit on the trails that are coming to and from, because like turkeys are cool, but yeah, I don't need, you know, 4,000 pictures of 20 turkeys. So anyway, that's what I'm up to. All right, let's do this, bud. All right, so here's one of the key things that I look for is beds. I'm standing right above a bed right now, and I've made it from my original video probably, I don't know, through a bunch of burrs at least, maybe like 40 yards. And I'm right at a nice bed. It's not all the way down to the ground, meaning it probably hasn't been like very habitually used, because otherwise it would be dirt here, because there were a couple others that I've seen previously last week that were dirt. But it's a great bed. It's got pee in it. There's multiple beds here, which generally tells me that it's a doe group. So there are does bedded in here. This one actually is really large. So it could be in the winter, they generally herd up. Deer will all stick together. So bucks can be mixed in with does. So you could get, you know, 7, 8 beds in a row. One would be giant and the other 6 would be smaller. So that's probably a buck and 6 does. But in general, this one's pretty big. So I'm thinking it's a nice buck. And then there's a couple smaller ones, and it's nice that they're right next to each other for comparison. So I got this pinned. And the other thing I do right away is I drop these. I already pinned it on Onyx Maps. So I drop these bedding areas. That way I know, because I have a tree stand. I was just looking at it a little bit ago. Probably 50, yeah, close to 50 yards from here. So like I'm right in it, right in the mix of it. And I got to be able to trim that out, because I don't want to trim it out so that I can see this when I get in. I want to have the cover when I'm getting into the stand so that I'm not, you know, showing these deer exactly where I am. But I got to trim out lanes around here so when they do stand up, they keep moving. Or I'm able to, you know, stay hidden and everything. Also, the other big thing here is that these beds aren't like set in stone. Like, just because this one's right here doesn't mean this is the exact spot it's going to be in, you know, 8 months from now during season. So I'm generally just going to mark this whole area as a bedding area and just kind of stay out of here and hunt the skirts of it, hunt the fringe. So like, you're looking up behind me, I got this big hillside right up here, and I'm thinking, you know, these trees up further up the hillside, so that if I got a wind that's going this way, I can set up there. And if I got a wind that's going this way, I can switch around and I can set up somewhere in this area, and I can skirt these edges, get set up nice and quiet, and do some work. The other big tip there is, if you're like hunting close to bedding areas, you always want to use the weather to your advantage. So high winds, rain, anything that can mask your sound and your scent definitely help when you're trying to hunt close to bedding areas, which is generally what I target. And if you haven't seen any of my other videos, I target that because the land that I've hunted in the past has been very highly pressured. So the deer aren't moving much during daylight hours. You're getting them to move, you know, 20 to 100 yards. So getting really close to these beds is the best way to get that movement during daylight hours. All right. All right, on to the next spot. I didn't drop a trail camera in there because there was just way too many trails. There wasn't one main one, and I have limited cameras, so I don't want to like guess. I just want to find a main drag and drop it right on there. And I got other areas that I want to explore a little bit more. One important note was, we were kind of back in that big bowl right there. I didn't find a couple trails that I thought were going to be there, so that's always important to note too, is what you don't find. All right, moving down, there's a nice little trail right here. So scooting on down this, maybe drop a camera at the bottom of it. So if you can see here, I got a nice like creek that runs through here. And creeks are great areas to find pinch points where trails go across. They only cross in very specific areas. So I actually got pretty lucky here and just found one right away. Runs right across right here. You can see that. And then also runs right up that hill. Got a nice little rub right up there actually, which is kind of cool. So I can see that it goes up there, and I can also see another trail that comes up, and then they merge. And that's where I like to put my trail cameras. I know like this is a general area just from hunting it this season, a good area, so that I'm gonna hopefully not fall through when I cross this creek. I'm gonna drop a camera right here on this tree, and I'm actually gonna just stay on those trails and follow it up this big hill. And this big hill here is a big knob, and this is like the enigma to me. It looks fantastic, looks phenomenal. One whole side of it is sheer rock boulder cliffs that deer won't go up at all. So it's a great funnel. And then the other side is a slow drop. So like essentially these deer, when they get up on top, they got to go up a certain area and down a certain area. And I have not explored it yet because it's very, very thick. And I also believe it to be a bedding area. So during season, I'm not really going in and pushing around in there. But today, I'm gonna find out what's going on. I hope I don't fall through. Yes. So here is this merge right here. You can kind of see this trail running right through here. And then this one that I was on right there, there's the merge. Here's the tree. Gonna have a camera pointing right at it. So I've just came across another couple deer beds here. There's one right here, one over here, one over here. Pretty decent. It's 3 of them, so likely a mom and 2 fawns. And in this general area where I am, I have trail camera pictures of a mom and 2 fawns. So it just lets me know that they're here, they're hanging out here, and I can kind of work around it. I just want to show you guys that. One thing I do want to say about bedding areas is they're not all like primary, sit there the whole day bedding areas. A lot of them are actually what I like to call secondary bedding areas. So it's where they stop and hang out before they go to their primary for the day. So an example of this is like a bunch of deer feed in a field all night, right? They come back, and like it gets light at 6 a.m. So they start working their way back at 4 a.m. They stop at about 4:30 and just lay down in a bed until like 5:30, 6 when it gets light out. So they take kind of like a breather or a break. They just hang out for a little bit, let their food digest. Then they get back up, and then at 6 a.m. when you're out hunting and you see them moving around in the morning, they're going from that secondary bed to their primary. They're going to that big, thick bedding area where they want to spend their entire day. So when you find deer beds, the reason I'm saying all this is when you find deer beds, you want to make sure that if you're going to hunt them, like that you're hunting a primary bed. I personally have hunted secondary beds. Like I'm like, oh, this has got to be a good buck bed when I first started learning about them. And then I go and I sit, and then nothing ever gets up, and I get done with my sit and I move out. I try it again, and then some point in time I go and check it, and I'm like, man, there's not even a deer in here. He must have been in here an hour ago, 2 hours ago, and he's only using it in the dark. Well, that's just a waste of time. So, and the best way to figure that out is to try and fail. Really, that's the best way to learn that. But another way is kind of, if it's in real thick nastiness, like those first beds I found and showed you guys, down trees, multiflora rows, burdock, thick vegetation, like that's a primary bed for sure. Like no doubt about it, they're gonna spend all day there because there's a ton of cover. They can smell, they can see, everything's good about it. Whereas if you find one that's like in the middle of a CRP field when you're out pheasant hunting, or you know, right on the edge of the woods, like on a fence line, right where you know they feed, like those are generally secondary bedding areas. So, and I have the naming wrong. It's just kind of what I call them because it's the first bed they go to, and then they go to their like all day. But you get the point. You know what I'm saying. So yeah, just double check those, and you know, and if you have real doubts, drop a camera on them, see what happens. But that's kind of my opinion, and again, you learn that as you go along. Man, there's good sign in here. I'm heading up this big hill. Right up here. It's the next spot. Followed that funnel up. Now I'm up on top of this big rock cliff, kind of this big knob. Kind of see over behind me. It's just, you know, I'm up on this top, which is pretty cool. But the track I followed was just a track. It's just one deer that did it one time. So I want a trail that's heavier used than that. So what I'm doing is I'm following the terrain feature. So I'm following the edge of this like rock cliff until I find a trail that perpendiculars it, and I cut it, and then I can hop on that trail and go figure out where they're going. And that's a tactic a lot of people use. So if you're out, you don't know where the trails are, rather than just kind of meandering all over the place, find the edge of something, whether it's the edge of the woods, a CRP field, a swamp, you know, anything. Find the edge of a river, creek bed, or like here is a big rocky outcrop. Find the edge of that and follow that, because deer just, they live on the edges. They like those edges, and a lot of times those edges will create funnels. And we, like, as humans, you don't really understand it that well until you see it. Then you're like, oh, duh. That's very obvious why all the deer come out into this field right here is because of A, B, and C, once you find it. But anyway, yeah, follow that terrain feature until you cut that trail, and then you understand where that is, and it's usually like some sort of pinch point or funnel, and then mark it and maybe hunt it. I don't know. Follow the trail. After that last video, I moved about 80 yards or so, and I found it. So this is the pinch point, the funnel that these deer roll through to get up here. So the tracks aren't fresh, meaning it's not used that much, but I do have a good trail going up here. Those tracks are from my dog, and then it also splits and goes right up here. Probably, I don't know, 5 to 10 deer, maybe 15 deer have come through this. So I am gonna set a camera here just because I want to better understand this side of this knob, and I'm hoping to drop one on the back side too. But found that pinch point, found that funnel, just like I was hoping, and maybe I can get some cool pictures out of this. We'll see. The big thing about winter scouting, a lot of people tend to forget, is that deer act differently in the winter than they do in the fall. You know, there are definitely some similarities, like certain trails and things will stay relevant year round, but you have to understand how your property works how the deer use it, depending on the time of year, the food source, is if it's the rut, the pre-rut, early season, late season, where pressure comes from. So as you're out winter scouting, always keep those things in mind, because there are certain areas where I go, okay, this area is good, there's tons of rubs, tons of scrapes, but it's a rut spot. So I need to understand how I'm gonna hunt this from November 1st to, you know, November 20th, not how I'm gonna hunt it September 16th. Because it could be totally different, you know. Generally, your early season spots are food sources, your mid-season spots, your pre-rut, are scrapes and rub lines, and then your rut spots are between bedding areas, and then late season again is probably a different food source. So understanding how all that works on the property you're hunting and keeping it in mind while you're winter scouting will help you be way more effective in the fall. Because like I said, a lot of people just think a spot's good. They're like, oh, this is a good spot, I'm gonna sit here, and they sit there regardless of the time of year and the wind. And then they go, man, there are tons of tracks in here and everything, and I don't see anything. Well, you're probably hunting it with a bad wind, or it's a late season spot. It's not good for early season. So just keep those in mind when you're out here doing all this stuff. Man, some of this snow is deep. But yeah, that's kind of the big thing I see a lot of people miss. Another great spot to scout, and this happens all the time, is about 10 to 30 yards off of a field edge. If you don't know what trails the deer are using, like there's almost always a trail there. So right here, neighbor's property, big pasture over here. On the other side of the pasture is a bunch of ag fields, and you can see this big old trail that runs right through here, right there. Runs right through here, parallels this whole edge. So I haven't ever kind of gone up into this corner and everything, just checking it out, seeing what's up here. Then I'm gonna drop back in. I know there's a big pinch point down below here, so that'll probably be the next video. And then I think I'm about out of time. All right, let's keep going. This stuff is nasty. Like these spines that are on this, things are not fun, and that's what all this is. So I'm gonna go this way. Try to break off, maybe find a different spot way through here. Looks like a deer thought the same thing. All right, so I followed that trail along the fence up there, and it did exactly what I thought. It just went right out into the ag field, into the neighbors. They were digging around there a little bit, not a ton. I'm guessing it was just a couple deer recently. But I just dropped my last camera of the day, which is right here. Been out here for about 3 hours now. And this camera has been my best camera on the entire property for the last 5 months. Gotten every buck that I've ever seen on the property on this camera. And the reason being, it's on this hillside is really slippery, it's because you can kind of see all the way along here is a rock ledge. So that rock ledge is really hard for them to get up. It's hard for them to jump up and over. It's slippery. There's kind of springs along this whole ledge, so they're always wet. But right here, it stops. So this is a phenomenal pinch point. They can't, like, right here is like as shallow as it gets. So this is only like a foot, 2 feet tall, whereas it goes over here, it's 4, 5, 6, 7, and then way down there, you're actually looking at like a 20 to 30 foot cliff, like straight cliff. So that funnels them around the base and right up through here. And then the ag fields are up on top. Once they get through that pasture, everything's up there. So all the beddings down here in the deep valley, and on the other side, that big knob over there is where we were earlier. And so they all come from kind of generally over that direction, come down to the valley, up over, and up through here. So anyway, that's it for today. I got to make it out of here, got to head home. I got about 4 or 5 cameras dropped, and I don't know, I hope you guys found something valuable here. This one right here is really just using a terrain feature to have a pinch point. That's what it's all about, and it seems to work great. Natural funnels are phenomenal when you can find them, and it's not always easy to find them, and a lot of times on public land, when you do find them, somebody else already has. But at the same time, it's still generally your best bet, especially during the rut, during the pre-rut, when deer are going all over the place. They're always funneling through specific areas. So hope that helps, guys. Again, you find this valuable, you learn something from it, you want to see more of it, please hook up a like and a subscribe. And any comments, drop them below. Always happy to answer. All right, catch you guys later.